Going forward now, we answer questions directly.
Honorable Speaker, allow me to start with a question on FIFA. CS nominee FKF received a letter from FIFA in March threatening suspension following a litany of court cases bedeviling the Kenyan Federation. And to date, FKF has not held their AGM, nor released an election roadmap. If you get the opportunity to serve in this ministry or don't to hear what you intend to do, I do know you're a football fan, but the teams that you support are not Kenyan teams, at least the ones I see you online supporting. What will you do to make sure that our football gets back its glory and at least Kenyans can be watching our Premier League the way they watch the English Premier League? Two, you have clearly put out your report card for the time that you are the Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure. I remember a year ago, you appeared in Parliament and promised Parliament and the people of Kenya that you would be exploring PPP as a model, an alternative model of financing huge infrastructural projects. I do know there was some work on Adani at the airport. Would want to hear whether this is the Kipchumba Murkomen who has been accused on social media of selling, in quotes, our airport. Did you or did you not sell our airport? And who did you sell to?
Take Junet as well.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I have taken note that the CS nominee, last time we vetted him here under your chairmanship, and I've seen he has just come with the same suit that he came with that time. I have the picture with me here in my phone, Mr. Speaker. I was waiting for a different one.
It's the same suit.
The same suit and the same tie. I was looking for something else.
Maybe that's his attire of luck.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, Mr. Speaker. Maybe the people who live in the valleys of Elgeyo Marakwet told him, if you want to get approval, just take that suit and that tie. Yes. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, the question I want to ask him is that one is about this Ministry of Sports. I wanted to ask him that about protection and growth of local content. What measures will you take to protect Kenyan artists from plagiarism? Then how is the government going to assist local artists, local creatives in achieving 60% of content for local broadcast? How will you ensure that all Kenyans, including those who do not have access to TV, can consume our local content? How will you achieve that? And lastly, Waziri, from your previous office, please put it very clear to this committee. What is this matter of Adani and Jomo Kenyatta Airport? When did you travel to India? Whom did you go? What is the content of the letter? Everything. We want to know whether the Jomo Kenyatta Airport is still Kenyan Airport or it is now Mumbai International Airport. Please.
Yes, nominee.
Mr. Chair, as a matter of fact, what...
You either refer to me as chairman or speaker. I'm not a chair. I'm sitting on one.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
The chairperson or chairman.
Yes.
Why don't you like chairperson, Mr. Speaker? Because you don't want to give room for agenda. Yes. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If I say this, I will offend you and other people. I am an ardent fan. Contrary to what Mr. Kimani Ichung'wah said, I am a serious fan of Gor Mahia. I used to.
Does that offend me?
Because you are a fan of Man.
I'm a fan of Arsenal. No, my local team is AFC.
On a light note, I used to on Saturdays in the St. Patrick's High School. We used to be allowed to get out of school. So we used to sneak from Iten all the way to Eldoret to watch Gor Mahia play KCC and I was really used to be thrilled. So I've been a Gor Mahia fan for a long period of time. Beside that, in UK, I support Manchester, and in Spain, I support Real Madrid. Mr. Speaker, sports is for fun. And Mr. Speaker, I agree with Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Those days when we used to support Gor Mahia, AFC, and all the other teams, Shabana, among others, KCC, we even used to know all the players, up to the reserve team. Now, Mr. Speaker, I don't even know our Gor Mahia players, who they are, even when they change. Why? Because the standard of football has gone down over time. It is a paradox because media, access to media has increased. Meanwhile, the accessing sports and publicity of sport and standard of sports has gone down. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I agree with Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah that the place that has to start is, Mr. Speaker, football, sports management, and for this purpose, FKF. Mr. Speaker, it is not right that for the last 8 years, you have an organization that has a leadership in office that has not been elected, but they are there in perpetuity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's not just FKF, it's AK. AK has been there for 12 years without an election. Cricket Association, the same. Badminton, the same. Mr. Speaker, for swimming, the same. There is a problem, a serious problem, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to sports management in this country. And Mr. Speaker, what is also worse is that there is a collaboration, and unfortunately, as an officer of the court, I have to say this. There is a collaboration between these organizations and, Mr. Speaker, court orders. If you find why the AK has never held elections for 12 years, it's because they are perpetuating themselves using a court order. That is the same way the FKF is perpetuating itself along a court order. Mr. Speaker, the first thing I will do is to make sure that we bring all the stakeholders, and Mr. Speaker, I promise I'll do that within the next 1 month, all the stakeholders in different sectors of sports, to make sure that we have a conversation on how to turn around these sports. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I would like, and I hope the Chief Justice is watching me, or even if she's not watching me, she'll be told. I'd like to have a meeting with the Chief Justice, Mr. Speaker, should I be approved, to discuss with the Chief Justice how they will expeditiously make decisions in relation to, Mr. Speaker, elections and officials of sports associations. Mr. Speaker, the Chief Justice and our judges must understand that they are blocking young people from accessing opportunities, Mr. Speaker. The third issue, Mr. Speaker, is that I am going to request those people who have served for more than 8 years in any federation, Mr. Speaker, to recuse themselves and give an opportunity to new people who have energy and vigor to be elected, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that they take over these associations. The last thing, Mr. Speaker, I'll say on that point is
they will never recuse themselves.
I know.
Just restructure the constitution.
I'm coming to the next one.
Give them 2 terms, non-renewable. After 2 terms, 3 years, 4 years, they finish, they go.
I was coming to that, Mr. Speaker. I was coming to the next issue. The next issue, Mr. Speaker, is that we will make sure that we will not finance any sports federation that, Mr. Speaker, is not following the Sports Act and does not do regular elections. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that we must deal with is that we cannot hide. Our sports federations cannot continue to hide, saying that the resources they get from FIFA or World Athletics Organization or International Badminton Organizations are not subject to auditing. We must audit that money, Mr. Speaker, and we will involve Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We will involve DCI if it requires, Mr. Speaker. That money is given to Kenya, not for the association themselves. It's on behalf of the young people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and we must take them by the horns, Mr. Speaker. And I promise you, I am not an easy person to play with. I am going to go straight to these federations. I'm going to deal with these federations. And if they accept, if they want to, Mr. Speaker, to continue operating, they must accept to work with us. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say that to return our football and to return our sports, Mr. Speaker, back, we must also make sure that football management is done well. But on the other side, we must also support the private sector. For example, Safaricom with Chapadimba, they're doing a very good job in identifying talent. We need to encourage other associations, other companies, Mr. Speaker, with tax rebates that are paid on time and transparently to make sure that we return private sector to be able to support our sports teams, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know there are many other issues on sports, but that was very specific to FIFA and the cases that are there. Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, Mr. Mwenda is my friend, Mwendwa, and Tuei is a person I know. I want these people to just believe in the people of Kenya and give a chance.
You are confirmed.
Yes.
You are not being confirmed to go and work with friends. You are going confirmed to go and work for the people of
Kenya. That's why I'm saying, Mr. Speaker,
yes,
they are my friends, but they need to know, Mr. Speaker, that time is up. The people of Kenya would like to have an organization that is being run in a proper manner and in an accountable manner. And they need to know one thing. Murkomen is not alone. Now I have an army behind me of young people. Mr. Speaker, they either voluntarily exit these positions and accept the changes that we need, or we greet them or occupy them, Mr. Speaker. This is
that will be unlawful.
Mr. Speaker,
and we encourage you not to go that route.
No, Mr. Speaker,
if you are confirmed.
No, not illegally. We will do it, Mr. Speaker, in a peaceful manner, because, Mr. Speaker, we will follow Article 37 very carefully, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that this is achieved. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that on the PPP issue of the airport, PPP is a very important concept of developing our infrastructure. You know that, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, on the road of Rironi Mau Summit, already the previous government had committed itself on the PPP. Unfortunately, the contractor they worked with was not willing to ensure that there is no transfer of guarantee to the people of Kenya. That is the reason why we are terminating the contract. Otherwise, the road would have started if they had accepted not to transfer that burden to the people of Kenya. We are redoing that PPP because of that. Mr. Speaker, for the airport, I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker, to the people of Kenya. I have not, and I do not have the capacity to enter into any PPP as a person, as a cabinet secretary. And I have not in any way sold the airport. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is this. The president has said this publicly. The PCS has said this publicly. PPP, the people of Kenya need to be taken through the process of PPP. A PIP proposal, which is the case of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, that is privately initiated proposal. Mr. Speaker, which is part of PPP. Mr. Speaker, is not the first one. The first PIP, Mr. Speaker, in this country was the road, the expressway. The expressway was through a PIP. The government evaluated it. They found a proper contractor. Now we have expressway with a contract period of 30 years, transferable back to the people of Kenya once the road is used and maintained. Mr. Speaker, the difference between the expressway and the airport is that there was a proposal. And this is not just one proposal. People keep coming with proposals. Some are serious, some are not serious. Some you invite them to come for meetings, they don't come. When a PIP proposal has been done, the contracting authority, in this case Kenya Airports Authority, goes through a preliminary process of establishing the viability and the verifying the existence of the company, the capacity, and so forth. Once they do the preliminary process, Mr. Speaker, as the case is in Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, that process now moves to PPP committee, PPP's directorate in the ministry, in the treasury. That process has not even reached treasury yet. What Kenya Airports Authority was to do is to first establish the relationship with the proponent. Now, they have reached a certain threshold now that they should be able now to do public participation and stakeholder engagement, after which they will send the report to PPP's committee. The PPP directorate will move it back to the contracting authority. The contracting authority will write to the ministry. The ministry, the cabinet secretary in charge of transport, when the time comes, will write to the attorney general. The attorney general will go through it, Mr. Speaker. If he agrees, also it is forwarded to the treasury minister. The minister, if he agrees, you do a cab memo. And you know, Mr. Speaker, you have worked in government. A cab memo will be circulated to among the parties. It's tabled in the cabinet, and if the cabinet agrees, they pass it. So for someone to wake up one morning and say all such an elaborate process would have involved one individual, let alone even one agency. A PPP process is a collective process of government, and I want to assure the people of Kenya that your assets are safe. Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is safe. When this process advances, and I hope it advances, we will get to the level where we will make sure that the product that we get is going to benefit the people of Kenya. One thing I want to assure you, the first thing I did was to resolve the dispute that was there. There was a claim of 20 billion shillings hanging on KA. Through negotiation and mediation, we made sure that we negotiated out, and only we are paying 600 million shillings. Mr. Speaker, that now the airport is ready for investment, ready to receive investment, like other airports. Once we are done with that, Malindi, for example, where Honorable Baya comes from, Mr. Speaker, has got funding from Italian government, and we were able to get funding from Italian government to build a modern airport in Malindi. This is how we should move. If we succeed to get PPP in Jomo Kenyatta, and again, another thing I want to assure Kenyans, where the proponent will build the terminal is the only size of land, maybe 20, 30 acres. It's not 1,000 acres, the total acres of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It's only a small section that will be concessioned where the proponent will build the terminal. And we need it. Otherwise, if we don't need it, Mr. Speaker, if we don't do it, we will become, Mr. Speaker, the last in this region. Ethiopia has defeated us. Rwanda is about to complete their airport. Tanzania has improved theirs. Even Uganda have a better airport. Even Mutembei is looking more presentable. The same Kenyans who are talking about leaking roofs, drainage systems, Mr. Speaker, very bad infrastructure
CS nominee
should be able to support
CS nominee.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You're just confirming one thing.
Yes.
Even the president lamented that the weakest link in his government was public communication. You seem to have all the facts, but nobody has been told.
Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that PCS has said, despite the fact that the presidents were communicated,
but
remember this issue
came because of the storm. But if it was explained along the way as you went about these things, the public would have understood you better.
Let me absolve the KA for this reason. This is a proposal of March.
Honorable
March. Yes.
I think what we just need to we have to admit that we were bad communicators. Just assure Kenyans that you will communicate better in your next assignment, and that you'll advise your successor to ensure that this message you have given us today of the great work you have done will go out to be known by the public. We can now.
Yes, Unit.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with you. You see, Jomo Kenyatta is the biggest airport in the country.
In the region.
In the region, actually. And that's the biggest, one of the biggest assets Kenyans have. You want to go PPP with it. And Adani has written a letter saying that he wants to go PPP. You are not informing Kenyans that Adani, a man called Adani, has written to us. Then you expect Kenyans to keep quiet. And they can see the airport was almost going. They will not keep quiet. They will not keep quiet.
Mr. Speaker, let's move on. For the record, let me just say for the record.
You are being evaluated for Minister for Sports. So let's move to sports.
But my integrity on this issue is important.
And we move on.
That, Mr. Speaker, this is a proposal of March this year. Before you communicate to the people of Kenya, you always get every year 2-3 proposals. As a matter of fact, I can confess, we've received, for airports in Kenya, we've received more than 20 proposals when I was in office. But you keep evaluating to see who is a joker, who is a serious person. Once you achieve a certain threshold, the public participation engagement is done, which was supposed to be done from this July. But Mr. Speaker, it coincided with the time that the president made the changes, when we were now supposed to do this. Number two, more than 5 times I have communicated PPP on Jomo Kenyatta International Airport through Parliament. Several times I've been asked this question. I have said there are proposals that we are working on, looking at, and we will communicate to the public about the PPP. So, Mr. Speaker, the time had not reached for us to make that
You've made the point.
The last thing I want to say is that Honorable Junet talked about protection of local content. I think, Mr. Speaker, we just need to be serious as a country. We need to implement our intellectual property laws, Mr. Speaker. I know that we have institutions in place, Kenya Copyright Board, Kenya Industrial Property Institute. We have also, Mr. Speaker, Anti-Counterfeit Agency, which I served as the first board member, who are supposed to do enforcement. I think that needs to be done. Suffice to note, Mr. Speaker, that is not within my ministry. It is in the Arts and Culture Department in the Ministry of Gender, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also in the terms of local content, I totally agree with Honorable Junet. We need to bring Citizen TV and Royal Media have a product that they try to support local content. Mr. Speaker, they want to go the same way with Sony Studio, Universal Studios, and so forth. We need to support more of the same of local companies that are going to take local content, air them, and Mr. Speaker, pay our artists across the country. And this 60% local content is easily achievable if we find ways of engaging them. And I think what I have had for the short period after my nomination, I have engaged the sector. Many people think that this is one sector that has never had proper public participation. The people have the ideas, the stakeholders have the ideas. It needs just a leadership that is listening, and I'm going to listen to them, and we work together towards achieving this 60% local content.
Members, one question each, and Minister